guys, good morning. I was just reading over some of your responses on a discussion board regarding depositions and thought I would just kind of touch base with you and elaborate a little bit more on what some of you have already written. And forgive the appearance, but it's a little early in the morning. I'm just sitting here having some coffee and decided to respond to some of the questions and comments. In regard to depositions, yes, there are technically 3 ways you can do that. Depositions normally are recorded, but the recording itself is through a stenographer, and the stenographer then will take that information and convert it to a transcript. And the transcript is actually what the attorneys receive, what the deposed individual receives, and the courts use. And there's sometimes even, if you don't settle and you go into court, parts of the deposition can even be thrown out and are not admissible. And one of the examples I give, if you're following that case with, I can't remember the girl's name that supposedly has killed her daughter, Casey somebody. In that particular case right now, they're in the process of trying to decide what is allowed to come into court and what's not. And that's a very time-consuming process. And part of that is the depositions that were taken of her parents. They're questioning whether parts of those depositions can be placed into court. So that's the transcript part. They can be recorded, and the recording can be used in court. And of course, that changes everything so that you can't use those long gaps to think and all that. But the other one that's most prominent, if it probably is an emotional case or there's some psychological concerns, they'll videotape it, because what they want to do is they want to get the heart of what the person's doing. They want to show those facial reactions. If it's a person that has anger issues, the attorney may try to get the person to unravel, and then they've got a video, because the words on paper on the transcript wouldn't show that. And so they try to do that. There are different techniques that attorneys use to question you. And one of the most common and most effective for attorneys in depositions is to do the guilt thing, where they ask you a question and they'll say, well, are you telling me that you didn't go back into the classroom? And you're like, no. And then they'll ask you again, you didn't go back into the classroom. I mean, you didn't go back in there. And you start questioning yourself, and you're thinking, oh my heavens, should I have gone back in? Am I guilty? And then what happens is, once you start questioning yourself and doubting yourself, you'll start wavering a little bit. And then that's their key. And then they go in for the kill. And that is, they get you to basically recant. Well, no, I probably should have. I didn't. And then all of a sudden, you have given them something they can use against you. And it's very common, and it's very strategic, and it works. They also will ask you the same question over and over. If they ask you a question, they want you to say yes and you say no, they will take you down another path, and at the end they'll ask you that same question again, and maybe they've asked you a series of questions unrelated where you've answered yes to everything if they're wanting you to say yes, and then they'll slide that question in, and you're in that habit of saying yes, and if you don't pay attention, you'll say yes again, and they get what they want. So those are very common strategies that are used, and then there's some that are even more devious than others. But the worst I think I was ever in was a case where the attorney that was questioning the person being deposed wanted to set them off, wanted to paint them as a crazy. And it was a principal, and they wanted to make the principal look like he was a little nutty. And they were literally, it was not recorded other than with the stenographer, so it was going to be made into a transcript, and they were not videotaping it. So the antics of the attorney were not going to be videotaped. And the attorney was just in the face and really browbeating this principal just to get him to lose it. And they finally, one of the other attorneys just stopped it and said, you need to regroup. We draw the line. And so those are just some things to answer questions that I saw that you had online this morning that might help you with depositions. Have a good day.